A local environmental database firm says Seneca Lake could be in danger if the state allows Crestwood Midstream to store liquid petroleum in vacant salt wells without prior testing.
And our very own Brandon Menard has more on the firm's findings.
We're basically releasing for public review extensive documentation which shows that the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation knew in 2011, 7 years ago, that there were documented leakage concerns in the salt caverns that were being proposed for liquefied petroleum gas storage.
According to Toxics Targeting President Walter Hang, Crestwood subsidiary Finger Lakes LPG in Watkins Glen could have leaks in some of their underground salt wells. Hang says there's reports where their one well, well 64, may be in communication with a number of other wells. So now Hang says Finger Lakes LPG wants to store liquefied petroleum gas in their salt caverns along the shores of Seneca Lake without the state requiring them to test for any potential leaks prior.
So the state actually required the permit applicant to come up with a work plan to investigate this concern, but then it never required that investigation to be carried out. It actually said that the applicant could carry out this critical study after the permit to store gas in these salt caverns had been granted. That makes no sense.
Earlier this month, Finger Lakes LPG notified the DEC of plans to perform pressure testing on a series of wells as the company continues to wait for the approval of its permit. Hang says this testing should have been required before the state grants the company permission to store LPG. He says if testing isn't done and there's a leak in the future, it could have irreversible consequences.
So the concern has always been if there are uncontrolled releases from these caverns, then Seneca Lake could be impacted. And once these problems begin, they're virtually impossible to halt.
WENY News reached out to the Department of Environmental Conservation to ask why pressure testing wasn't required when drilling activities began on the property in 2011. Our calls were not returned at this time. In Watkins Glen, Brandon Menard, WENY News.
And just moments ago, the New York DEC did get back to us saying they've not made any final determination on Finger Lakes LPG's permit application. They say the decision will be based on a comprehensive review to decide whether the application meets the state's environmental standards designed to protect public health and the environment.